Ready? Play.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Talking Tennis. And it's the sequel, the highly anticipated sequel of the Wimbledon qualifying show, which Damien so expertly gave us on Monday. And now he's here to tell us how well his expertise has worked out. Damien, how are you doing?
Hey, no, I'm just laughing about the fact that, John had to find me a body to do qualifying with, and I'm very glad. You also guys should get used to the duo of Damien and Nick, because tomorrow morning we'll also be bringing you the Wimbledon draw. So, lots of Damien and Nick action, and Jake definitely is happy based on his chat message.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's always happy to see either of us, let's be honest, but the two of us combined are unstoppable. Indeed. Someone who we thought was unstoppable, and we'll launch straight into the show for the men's qualities, why not? Someone we thought was unstoppable was Giovanni Impeci-Pericard, who I think I was about to say this to you before the show started, and I was like, no, we'll save it for the stream. But yeah, he was like, oh yeah, he has to be dead cert to make it through, right? No, he was not. Maxime Janvier had something to say about that.
I mean, yeah, this loss kind of represents some issues, even honestly. I think I even said in my Wimbledon, the thread, not the thread, but the pics that I had on Twitter, I kind of said that, like, you know, this is a good section. He kind of plays a lot of lottery matches on grass, but well, still. And today was just that. You know, he hit 44 aces, which did not matter whatsoever because he still couldn't break Janvier. I think he only did once in 4 matches. In 4 sets, of course. And the main thing to me is that, like, all the progress that Giovanni Impeci-Pericard made this year, like, all the progress comes from the fact that he is, like, better athletically. He's just better off the ground in general. You know, when he was winning Lyon, of course, the backhand was so insane, even though usually it's such a huge liability. And that doesn't show up on grass. Like, no, like these things are just not a factor, you know. It's just going to be huge serve bombs from both players in a match like this, and he actually lost that coin flip. So in a way, it's surprising. In a way, that's if Giovanni Impeci-Pericard was going to lose, that's exactly how he was going to go out. Was it going to be against Janvier? I mean, not many thought that Janvier was going to get there, obviously, but someone like Nava, for example, like that was always going to be a possibility if Nava made the final round. But in the end, of course, it is Janvier. I'm very glad to see that qualifier, honestly. I mean, the guy is so talented, but just always plays like 5 good matches a year and just tape on his knees. I feel like I've never seen him without it, you know. So it's very good that he actually makes his first Grand Slam main draw on merit, let's say, because he's made 3 before, but that was all wildcards at the French.
Yeah. Well, it appears Kern is also surprised that he's not through. I guess the question is, Pericard's got to be top of the list for a lucky loser, right? We've got some withdrawals. Say Andy Murray doesn't play, which is possible.
It's a random draw between 4 players, right? Well, basically, it's Impeci-Pericard, Duckworth, Galan, and who? Someone else. I posted that on Twitter earlier. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he is going to have like a 25% chance to be the first in the draw. It's actually probably done already, but you know, these things are usually not public. But he is going to be in the draw if someone withdraws. So like he's going to have a 25% chance if someone withdraws. Let's just say that.
Oh yeah. By the way, we will be moving on to Kern's favourite player very soon, but we are going to work our way down the draw. So yeah, Janvier through maybe unexpectedly, even for Damien. Another Frenchman who was successful, Hugo Gaston, who maybe shouldn't be a surprise given his creativity when his brain is switched on, should work on grass. But the fact he's qualified for a non-French slam might be remarkable, especially since Kukushkin is as you said on Monday, not a bad grass court player at all, despite what the stats suggest. So yeah, Gaston in. No surprise, not really much of a surprise to me. Maybe it might be different for you. Not sure how much of an effect is going to be in the draw.
Yeah, I mean, best of 5 today kind of killed Kukushkin, to be honest. There was that third set when he had 5-4, was serving for it. He missed 3 set points, and after that, instantly took an MTO, like didn't even wait for the changeover. So yeah, it was kind of that story. Like after that, he was just done. But of course, it's a great achievement for Gaston to make it. As you said, he can be fine on grass. It's just we've never really had an instance of him doing this at Wimbledon or at any other event. He finally does. But yeah, today was a little like about that Kukushkin physical, basically physical woes, which, I mean, we expected that could be a factor, right? The guy is 36, I think, and certainly has had some experiences like that before, like this grass week, really, the last 2 events, Nottingham and Ilkley as well. So
yeah, so Gaston made it through, but of course, the one that we are Gaston making through, of course, the one that we're all looking forward to, and it probably wasn't the smoothest run, but Zizou Bergs, 3rd slam draw this season. I think I saw this from you on Twitter. So
what?
Pretty sure is it Zizou's 3rd slam he's made into?
3rd slam, yeah, okay, 3rd slam, yeah. Australia as a lucky loser and Roland Garros as a qualifier, yeah. Australia.
I'm sure I read your tweet, right? So this is where I got the information from. I got it from you.
I understood you wrong, yeah, but no, obviously, yeah, the information is correct. And yeah, today was just such a clean win. He was the first qualifier to make it. He was the first to dispatch his opponent in straight sets. Honestly, like, the key round was against Herbert. I will stand by the opinion that it could have been much more lopsided than it was. Like, off the ground, it was never really that close. Herbert had to resort to serve and volleying even after weak second serves to really have a shot there. Zizou did kind of take the scenic route, but he manages to end up in the making it in the end. Obviously now he's around 80 in the rankings. If anything, he's just showing that he will probably be able to stick around that main tour level. Probably no more Grand Slam qualifying for him, at least for a while.
Yeah, because he should stick around in the top 100 now, right? That's he's broken it now, and he can't have that much points to drop off unless he had a really huge challenger run back end of last year.
Well, he had a Gstaad quarter where he was very close to making the semis, but after that he had an injury. He was playing through it, but he was just slicing his backhand. So other than that Gstaad run, it's basically until November that he defends any serious. Only in November he's going to defend some serious points other than that Gstaad run. So yeah, I mean the chance is there definitely to stabilize and not worry about it come Australia.
Prospects for, I mean, obviously a lot of these qualifiers, it is going to depend on the draw and who they get. But Bergs at Wimbledon, do you think he's got, if he gets, say, another top 100 player in his first round and builds some momentum, maybe Bergs has a good chance here? What do you think?
He must be one of the stronger qualifiers. I don't know if that's strongest. I'm trying to think who else is there. I mean, a few other contenders lost today, like Reedy, for example, like Pechi Pericard, guys who could easily win matches. So actually, he might be the strongest qualifier. But as you said, it's going to be largely dependent on who they draw tomorrow. And we are actually going to have that nice privilege, right, of knowing which qualifier falls where, which is not exactly the case at the other slams when we see their draw ceremony.
Each slams do some things right and don't do some things as well. This is one of the things that Wimbledon does right.
Sure.
She's getting the qualifiers in.
One thing that I hate how Wimbledon does it is literally today, it's literally Thursday, just the fact that we have 16 matches on at the same time and then 16 matches on. I mean, I understand it also helps with the potential rain and stuff, but just, as someone who wants to watch like half of these matches, it's an absolute pain. But well, as you said, some things they do right, some things they do wrong.
Yeah. But yeah, I do see what you mean. For those who want to watch everything, it's tough. But hey, if you've got 16 courts, may as well use them. Here's a name that's got through. So James Duckworth is someone who regular viewer Ghosty, as we affectionately know him, was hoping would make it through. Thought could be good at Wimbledon, but Mark Lajal had something to say about that as an Estonian player who we were waiting to make some kind of breakthrough. And you've been talking about him and saying he's probably going to be, he's stalled a little bit, but he's now in the Wimbledon main draw and setting himself up pretty well here.
Yeah, pretty interesting decision recently not to defend his only challenger title, stay in Europe. I guess it's paid off, although the results in Surbiton, Nottingham, they weren't great. Lajal, by the way, should be a more accurate pronunciation.
Is it Lajal?
Yeah. And basically, I've been waiting for this guy's breakthrough for quite a while, for sure. Muratoglu Academy prospect that really this year has taken a step back. And this was supposed to be like a breakthrough season for him. Everything, I think, was kind of lining up for it. And finally, he has a result that he can be proud of. Finally, he has a result that really makes you think, oh, okay, maybe this is the breakthrough. And the straight set win over Duckworth is, just beating Passaro and Rocha, like these are wins he should be getting on grass. But the fact that he wasn't doing that all year, really, that's already big. And now beating Duckworth in straights, that's obviously something that he has to be really proud of. And who knows if he gets a nice draw in the main draw. That's definitely someone I'm going to be looking at as well tomorrow when we're going to get the draw and just kind of see where he lands, who he plays in the opening round. There is obvious potential with him. I made this prediction a year or so ago that he is going to be the best player Estonia has ever had. He has to make it work. He has to overcome that 71 ranking, I think, from Jürgen Chopp. So, Mark, you know what to do.
Yeah, that could. I mean, he might not be able to do it over Wimbledon, but you never know. What is it about Lajal that makes him such a great prospect?
It's just a super fun attacking game. I think has a lot of potential in terms of like imposing himself on the opponents, producing these very effective quick combinations, capping it off at the net, things that work very well on grass, great serve as well. I do think that it's a very high ceiling game once he kind of learns all the possible tips and tricks and basically is able to execute it in the best possible manner.
How old is he now?
21, I think.
Okay.
2003, I think he's 2003 born.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Well, someone who probably wasn't a surprise given he won Surbiton, Lloyd Harris made it through to qualify to Wimbledon main draw. Is this his first? When was the last time he was in a Grand Slam main draw, Lloyd?
Oh, tough question. I think Australia, actually, but he lost to Quentin Halys in the first round. I believe he qualified in Australia also in like pretty good style. But yeah, it feels like he's definitely gone up a level since, kind of getting closer to his, pre-injury stuff. Obviously won 3 challengers recently, including Surbiton, which you mentioned. And yeah, that was no surprise. That was the guy that everyone was expecting to make it. And today, one of the few favorites who didn't fail, along with Zizou and along with Virtanen, I guess. Otherwise, there were a few huge favorites, of course, that lost, like Duckworth, like Pecci Pericard. 1 or 2 more we're going to talk about. Harris was one of the ones who just, did his job. There was nothing memorable about this match and in general about this qualifying campaign, I think. But that's good, right? I mean, he was expected to make it and he did it in a rather routine style.
Yeah, relatively routine. Might have got a little tight for him at the end against Grenier. But as you say, he was the overwhelming favourite, especially getting through this section. So yeah, he's back. Lloyd Harris back in a main draw, and maybe a qualifier. Like obviously, I think qualifiers are all dangerous in their own right, but maybe one of the qualifiers that even some of the seeds might not want to have in their draw. First round.
Oh, was I supposed to respond to that? Yeah, sure. I mean, definitely someone with the weaponry that he has. Yeah. I think that maybe like his potential to like actually go to the fourth round or to the quarters is lower than some other qualifiers. But in terms of winning a match or two, yeah, sure.
Yeah. In terms of winning a match, like he's I think we know he's a quality player. So we know he's a quality player. So I guess that's what in my mind makes it. And that Surbiton win, he's got some grass momentum building up. But we'll see. Someone else who's got some history here, and this is interesting. So obviously Luca Van Asch was obviously potentially the first alternate to get into the main draw. Would there have been a withdrawal before qualifying started? Obviously, famously could have benefited from Andy Murray pulling out, but Andy Murray stubbornly insisting that he's going to withdraw at the last possible minute. And in the end, Van Asch did not qualify. He loses to former Wimbledon quarterfinalist Luca Pouille, who comes out probably one of the toughest sections of qualifying. Maybe not a surprise when you know Lucas CV, but yeah, won the battle of the French Lucas today.
Yeah, I mean, today, obviously, he was a pretty big favorite. I think for Van Asch, especially, it was such a big deal that he was the first alternate because, well, on grass, he's not going to be a favorite to make it for the qualies. In the end, it turns out that Murray is actually not, like, excluded out of Wimbledon already. Like, he's still trying to make it, right? So it's fine that he didn't withdraw. But, of course, that was not what we had sort of as info back on Sunday, on Monday morning, really. But as it stands, I mean, Pouille, he skipped a month literally after the French, so we didn't really know what was happening. We didn't really know what was going to be the case with him physically. But yeah, turns out he's great. Turns out he just went through this very challenging section routinely. I think especially the first two rounds, that bottom part of that section of the draw, that was really tough, and he made it just like, pretty much effortlessly. And I agree with Jovan that, Van Asch still did okay, but he was just never going to be like a big favorite to make it on grass. So perhaps that's why even for him, it was an even bigger deal than for someone like Duckworth, who was the second alternate, or for Zizou, who was the third alternate, as they are just a lot more dangerous on grass.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you're saying, Pouille taking a month off. I mean, this is very common for the Frenchman at this point in his career, right? Like since his kind of heyday in the mid to late 2010s. I'm thinking obviously 2019 Australian Open semi-final, that Wimbledon quarterfinal that he had. It's that sort of 5-set win against the Derby had it was either the Australian or the US Open.
US Open.
That
2016.
16? Yeah, 16, yeah. So mid to late 2010s. He's not been, I think injuries have clearly played a part in his career. So I think he's probably savouring any opportunity to be in a Grand Slam main draw at the minute.
Sure. I mean, he was pretty much the last 5 years, he like never really played anything like close to a full season. And this year is the first time he actually has a chance to do it. I mean, there's been some minor injury issues here or there, like the back against against Vansroy Nontaburi at the beginning of the season, but he was back playing like after 3 weeks. So yeah, this is like the first chance he has at a full season since 2018-19.
Yeah, great chance for Luca Pouille. More Frenchmen. Tell you what, this was a good week to be French in Wimbledon qualifying. Okay, there was a high percentage of Frenchmen in the draw. It seems to be a high percentage of Frenchmen in the pro circuit. But we mentioned him earlier, Quentin Halys coming through. Famously, I think he's a friend of the show. He is a friend of the show, albeit has not yet appeared on the channel. But yeah, Halys joins his fellow Frenchman through coming through in a section that you called the Medjedovic section. How disappointed are you that Medjedovic didn't make it? And then come on to your thoughts about Halys.
As I mentioned, I mean, Medjedovic was just going to have a couple of lottery matchups here with the serve botting against Zhukayev and potentially Halys as well. So I don't know if Medjedovic beats Zhukayev, he then beats Halys. I really have no clue. Like literally, he was just going to have tiebreak matches here, and he didn't manage to do it. But yeah, what else? I mean, Halys definitely a capable grass courter. He's fallen off so much in the rankings. There was even danger that he wasn't going to make US Open qualifying. I think with the way he's playing right now, he's probably going to do it. US Open qualifying isn't like literally wouldn't even get to the qualifying, you know? And yeah, last year he was taking the opening set against Sinner in the third round, and he was like, on proper upset alert. Like Sinner was on proper upset alert in that match. So it's been a while since we've seen a good version of Quentin Halys. Finally, we get there. And today, he just made the Zhukayev serve look like nothing, which is something that Medjedovic was unable to do yesterday.
So Halys getting his eye in, getting his timing on, and building up some momentum. Right, we're halfway through the qualifiers. I think it's probably no surprise, maybe, that Radu Albot is into the main draw. He loves a quick court. That seems to be where he's had his best results in his career anyway, on the main tour. Obviously, Galan, more of a clay courter, despite that shock result against Tsitsipas at the US Open a couple of years ago. But yeah, for me, looking at this section, absolutely no surprise to see Albot's name going through.
Galan made the third round in 2022 and the fourth round in 2023 at Wimbledon. So he's losing a lot of points here. He's losing about 160 something of them or something like that. So yeah, I mean, pretty brutal for him. Albot in general, I mean, he lost to Terence Atman in Ilkley just a week ago, but once Atman lost to Bu, it opened up a bit for Radu. He makes it into Wimbledon main draw through qualifying third time in a row. Whenever I see Radu Albot in Wimbledon, it always makes me think of last year, because I kind of said in my thread that he gets the best draws at Grand Slam qualifying, but is very good at making use of them. And Radu did quote tweet that and said, "Great thread, but wish I had a better comment than he gets easy draws." So this year I avoided that. Although I have to say that again with the Radu Albot part, I kind of had issues writing it, because like there's not much of a story in terms of Radu Albot, I just wrote down qualified for the third straight year, and that's kind of it. But yeah, I mean, he's a veteran of the tour, obviously, and he uses that experience very nicely, and yeah, was able to make it again through a much more challenging section this time around than last year, I think.
Okay, well, you can't now say that he gets easy draws. Maybe it'll now swap around.
He gets moderate draws now. Yeah, now he gets moderate draws.
So maybe this time he doesn't get a seed in the main draw.
Who did he play last year? I do not remember. So
I don't remember who he played last year. I mean, obviously, he's done all right. All right, ninth qualifier. There's been some surprise in the chat from Cohen a few minutes ago, probably near the start of the stream. David Goffin did not qualify. Gone from winning the Ilkley Challenger, looked pretty good, but Matteo Belucci always was going to be a dangerous opponent, and in the end, he won out in that matchup fairly narrowly in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think Belucci is incredibly dangerous. I don't think it's a big deal for Goffin to lose to him, although it is, of course, kind of heartbreaking, as he chose Ilkley, was kind of dead set on winning it and get the wild card. He didn't get it, and because the LTA decided to go a different route this year, actually awarded the eighth wild card for Wimbledon to a Brit as well, to Charles Broome. So yeah, it's kind of brutal for Goffin, but Belucci in the final round is a nasty draw. I mean, I love Matthias' game. Hopefully he's going to have like a really good second half of the year and attack the top 100 in the first half of 2025, because he's not going to be defending much. I mean, he also hasn't had a good year up until Roland Garros. Now he's qualified for 2 slams in a row, despite growing up on hard courts, getting such good results with his variety on both clay and grass. So yeah, definitely kind of turning into Ons Jabeur even more recently. And yeah, it's just a very good result for him and a great match he played today. I don't think it's any shame for Goffin to lose to him. It's just a very tough round 3 draw. Also, Belucci saved 2 match points in the first round against Ajdukovic.
Oof. Okay, so yeah, he's really had to battle his way through the opening rounds here, but he is now in there, and I'm aware of Belucci's reputation as a dangerous
And Jovan,
opponent.
when it comes to Goffin's lucky loser spot, he is 5th in line, so yeah, not really.
Yeah, he's going to need a heck of a lot of withdrawals. And things to work out in his favor there. Goffin maybe probably not going to be the Wimbledon main draw this year, which is a shame for him. Okay, so Demir Jumhur, I don't think I've got that name pronunciation right at all. Withdraws after going 2 sets love down against Alejandro Moro Canas, who is the one, obviously, who famously beat João Fonseca. Now, that loss of Fonseca's in the first round, looking even better for him, obviously, compared to what it was before, given the person he lost to eventually qualified. But yeah, Alejandro Moro Canas. Tell us a bit more about him, Damien.
No, I'm really glad to see this run from him. He was already playing a third set tiebreak at Roland Garros for it against Mattia Belucci. He lost in that final qualifying round, so good for him that he does it here. I think he's played great. I mean, definitely, I think I called it in the thread that like he kind of avoided the clay grinder pigeonhole this year, and that's really what he's been doing, developing the serve, developing the forehand, just making so much more out of his game than he previously had. I think he's a proper, top 150-ish player, maybe going to develop even further. Who knows? We'll see. But it was a great run from him. I think, he showed a lot of versatility again. Of course, the Fonseca thriller, like it was pretty crazy. But after that, he was like always looking like the guy who would qualify. I think he was also the toughest matchup for Fonseca in the opening, in this section, literally. And yeah, Jumhur just got injured, but who knows if he actually would have survived this if they managed to play it all the way until the end.
Just going to answer a couple of questions I'm seeing in the chat, by the way. Stan Wawrinka is in the Wimbledon main draw. His ranking was high enough to qualify. And then the other question we've got is, how many main draw players are injured? We don't know. I'm only aware of one injury possibility. But I'm not aware
Novak and Andy come to mind, right? I mean,
yeah. Novak is
they are kind of the main, but like I wouldn't expect 5 withdrawals. If I'm Goffin, I'm not sticking around, or actually, maybe. But well, I would wait to see kind of what the situation is for the next 2-3 days, and after that, probably not. Is Evans injured? I guess he had that recently, but I mean, he should be pretty desperate to play, given that he's going to defend these 500 points from Washington. But yeah, I mean, if there's no one withdrawing until Monday, then there's not going to be 5 withdrawals, right? And yes, Raz just posted Van Asch was the guy I forgot about. Yeah, so it was Mpechi Perikat back with Van Asch Galan, but we don't know what order they were drawn into basically. So either one of these 4 players is first in line. Goffin we know is 5th because he is the highest ranked who was not in the lucky loser draw.
Yeah, so he is in. So he's not going to make it. So yeah, that's just gonna. It would have to be quite a few. I don't know what the record for lucky losers would be in a Grand Slam. Like how many lucky losers in a Grand Slam main draw, but I feel like 5 would be pushing it.
Yeah, 5 is definitely quite rare. I'm pretty sure it's happened before, but it's definitely not that common. And usually we have some lucky losers by the time the qualifying finishes already, right? And this time we have none. So
Let's move on to the 11th qualifier. And here's another surprise loss. Leandro Ridi losing in 5 sets. We thought he was going to be strong on grass, but turns out he lost to the alternate with the absolutely massive serve, which is probably no surprise on grass, Alex Bolt, who, stormed his way into the main draw.
Yeah, Bolt was a last-minute alternate, but he actually would have gotten in even if Vacherot didn't withdraw, as there was one more, right? That Jules Marie got in eventually. Of course, he would have been in a different section, and then maybe the whole draw looks completely different. But yeah, he was always a threat here. I mean, 18-2 on grass this year. He's got a ridiculous pro record on grass in general. I was trying to I will admit that I did not do this research like super carefully, but I was trying to look up main draw players who have more grass court matches in their pro careers than Alex Bolt, and I think I literally ran out in after Djokovic, Murray, and Manarino. So that is pretty crazy, I think. And he was able to get there. He was definitely really good today, although he had to save a match point in the third set. So this easily could have gone the other way as well. Pretty disappointing for Ridi, as this is his second Grand Slam qualifying exit in the third round already. The first one was 2023 Australia when he lost to Dalibor Svrčina. And he was kind of just, I think he won 4 games there. Svrčina was like everywhere on the court. It was a pretty crazy match, but really he's going to be fine with this. I pretty well for a top 100 push this year. Let's see if he does it, but certainly it's still a very good year for him overall. It's just a shame he's going to have to wait for his Grand Slam main draw debut.
Yeah, but it will come eventually, right? I mean, it would be very unfortunate if it didn't.
Yeah, of course.
There we go. Short but sweet answer. Let's move on. So we've got former Wimbledon quarterfinalist Christian Garin makes the main draw. Maybe when you say a CV like that, not a surprise. Same as Luca Pui. But there were some dangerous players in his section. Klein being one of them, but Klein lost to Skatov, who then lost to Garin today. But to me, not a massive surprise to see Garin in the main draw.
Yeah, Klein losing to Skatov was pretty brutal for sure. I mean, just the fact that he wasn't able to break Timofey on grass whatsoever, and the margins in his game aren't that high in general. And that was definitely the surprise of that qualifying section. Garin, as you said, very capable grass courter. 4th round in 2021, quarter in 2022 in the main draw at Wimbledon. Last year he wasn't able to play it. Great that he's back. And I think today, obviously, it was a pretty routine win over Skatov, which is what you should be doing over Skatov on grass, I think. And it does kind of make you think, Klein, what did you do? But that it makes sense as well. Like it's just his play style, right?
Yeah, it is his play style. It almost pays dividends. But he's getting himself into Grand Slam qualifying regularly anyway. And Garin through safely, joining fellow South American Felipe Meligeni Alvarez, who beat the old school grass court player Maxime Cressy, another 5-setter. This one a little bit more back and forth. But is it Meligeni Alvarez? But he's through. Thoughts on that result, Damien? Surprised by that result?
Today, no, not really. I mean, Cressy was already struggling physically in the first round. Obviously, his playstyle, even though it's kind of designed for grass, right? Again, it just leads to very tight margins. And Meligeni Alves, to me, is also one of these clay courters who are actually better in like faster conditions, whether it's like just some altitude, just fast clay, wherever. Or, just literally, he qualified for the US Open last year and went even to the second round, I think. He's definitely no stranger to conditions like this. He also lost in the final round at Wimbledon last year to Albot. So it's not really like one of the most shocking ones. I think this was the section where we had Cressy and Hissler, right? And a lot of people were looking at them. And the thing is that both of these players are just so erratic that even if you have one of them winning in the first round, it's no guarantee that they're going to make it. And in the end, well, Cressy, who won that match, he didn't.
No, he didn't. Marchenko probably was another name that I recognised in there as someone who's had some Wimbledon results in the past as well. But I think Alves deservedly through. Obviously seems to like these faster conditions. I'm going to rattle through a little bit more until we get to the bigger story. But Elias Ymer has qualified for Wimbledon. I know that you were referring to this section as the Jesper de Jong section in your Monday show.
Did I?
That didn't.
Nah,
I don't know
had
if you did.
I had Kudla there.
Well, I think Kudla had already lost by that point, but de Jong came up a lot on the stream, and then de Jong loses narrowly to Shimabukuro, who then loses handily in the end to Ymer.
Yeah, Ymer, one of the qualifying goats, made it through all the 4 qualifying events in 2015, which remains a really ridiculous achievement. He actually hasn't made a Grand Slam, a Wimbledon main draw since. So Wimbledon is definitely his weakest major, but he makes it again. Shimabukuro is a great win, I think. Sho qualified last year and is just in general like kind of Mochizukiing his way through grass courts. Yeah, Jesper only has himself to blame because he was 8-3 up in the final set tiebreak against Shimabukuro and lost 7 points in a row. But in the end, it's Elias Ymer who always kind of remains this, is he going to peak at a Grand Slam again? And last year at Roland Garros, for example, Hanfmann was like this player who everyone favored to get through, right, in the form that he was in. And then next we see round 3, Elias Ymer plays like the most perfect match of his life to beat Hanfmann. And that's kind of what Elias Ymer does at slams. So yeah, he's just done it again.
He's done it again. And he knows what he's doing, just like John knows what he's doing when he's talking about tennis. But we've got Elias Ymer. How did he do with the French, by the way? Did he lose first round?
No. Yeah, I think so. I think he lost recently like 1 game. He won 1 game against someone and 3 games against Alexander Richard. It was Alexander Richard in the first round.
Yeah. In which case, he's got to. Hopefully, he knows a bit more about what he's doing on grass then for Wimbledon. But Elias Ymer maybe close to friend of the show category, or at least, if not a friend of the show, at least a friend of John Silk. So he has made it through into the Wimbledon main draw, along with 2 other players. No surprise, Otto Virtanen is one of those players, really, to me. I mean, like he's a player who's been growing throughout the season. In terms of like season results, like he's been on an upward trajectory. You're probably
no, Nick, we cannot say that. I mean, he was again just perfect in March, but after that, he's done literally nothing. Like since March, he's done nothing.
I remember nothing since March, Damien.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then in that case, yes, he is on an upward trajectory. Let's forget about the 3 months. However, yeah, I mean, the way he did it, that was the most ridiculous qualifying campaign I've ever seen. 4 match points against Agamenone on serve, 3 in a row. 4 match points against Richard on return, 2 in a row. It's Otto Virtanen. I mean, it's literally Otto Virtanen. It's why you watch his matches, to lose like 5 years of your life every single time. And that's exactly what I did in the first and second round. And today I was already thinking, oh my God, what a clean performance from Virtanen. I mean, obviously Buruchaga is no grass courter, but yeah, he actually managed to make it tough in the end. But still, he's through. And if he just, I don't know, is serious, if he brings 100% effort, he is definitely a threat in the main draw as well. He had a great chance at Roland Garros already to win a round, 4-0 up in the fourth set against Misolic. He lost that set 6-4. It's a crazy guy. It's a crazy player, crazy talent as well. And yeah, I guess maybe this is why we watch him, to watch these roller coasters.
Yeah, maybe being a Finnish tennis fan right now is probably not very easy. If you've got one player who seems to be on the downward trajectory and another player who gives you heart palpitations every time you watch him. If you are Finnish, please let us know if that theory is correct. But who did you have coming out of this section then? I can't remember.
Virtanen.
Oh, you did have Virtanen coming out.
Yeah, it's a very lucky point. I pick Virtanen every time because he just has the talent to win every section. No, I actually didn't pick him at the French, and he didn't win the section. But I pick Virtanen a lot. Let's just say that, be it winning challengers or getting through slam qualifying. But yeah, hopefully one day, he's gonna get to that top 100, and I think he might actually stay. He just has to sort out some issues. Hopefully get there as well with a normal points breakdown and not what he has had for the last 2 years, which is March 50% of his ranking, rest of the year peaking in Davis Cup only. And yeah. I don't know. Let's see what he does at Wimbledon. But yeah, getting through, saving 8 match points across 2 matches, of course, is quite insane.
Maybe this is where I got up to trajectory from, because generally, if Damien Kust rates you as a player, you're on an up trajectory, in my view. State of Sport referring to him as an indoor GOAT. I didn't think they played much indoors in March.
Actually, yes. I mean, literally, that's what he's been doing well in March. He went 13-1 this year across 3 challengers, Paul, Lugano, and Lille. Last year he won Lugano and Lille. So
indoors, yeah. All right. Wow. Last qualifier for the men's draw. Now, if you are probably not someone who's into the finer details of watching and paying attention to qualifying, paying attention to challenges, you might have expected Richard Gasquet to get through this section. Obviously, first time in 20 years he's been in qualifying. Well, in the end, he didn't make it because, well, if you do know what you're looking for, it probably isn't a surprise that Vit Kopriva is that player who's made the main draw.
No, Nick. I mean, no, I cannot subscribe to that. I mean, everyone was expecting Richard Gasquet to make it because this section was just like built for him. He's never gonna have an easier one. He's never gonna make a Grand Slam again unless it's a wild card in the French. I mean, literally, you cannot get a better section than this at Wimbledon qualifying, especially when Squire went out and was actually, despite leading 6-4, 5-3 over Kopriva. Vit Kopriva is not a grass court at all. However, he's also one of these kind of fast-liking clay players. He enjoys Prostayov, for example, and events like that where there's just a bit of speedier clay. And he made it in Australia as well. He took Korda to 5 sets. He definitely is one of these clay specialists who also prefer fast conditions. But given his form and everything, and just in general having 0 success on grass in the past, I think it's a win Gasquet has to get. Literally has to get. He didn't in the end. I know some people will tell you that best of 5 hurt him. Kinda, yes, I agree. But, he lost the second set even. He was pretty much done after a set. And it's not because yesterday he had a tough match. Yesterday he beat Galarneau in 50 minutes. So it's very disappointing thing for Gasquet. Pretty much anyone had him as a pick in this section just because it was tailor-made for him. And he actually looked very decent in the previous 2 or 3 events on grass. So, yeah, I mean, at Roland Garros, he was able to stick with Coric for 3 hours and beat him, had no issues. This time it didn't work out, and it's just a beginning of an end to me. If you cannot get through this section as Richard Gasquet, 2-time Wimbledon semi-finalist, I really don't know what sort of qualifying section you can get through.
Beginning of the end for Richard Gasquet. You heard it first.
I think a lot of people have been saying that for years, and I probably have said it many times in Story as well.
It depends on what you mean by the end. I mean, if you mean end of him being competitive.
No, but he said that if he's not in the top 100 at the end of the year, he's probably gonna call it quits. So, well, I think it's looking very unlikely at the moment.
Yeah. For me, I was I had him in the same category, similar category to someone like a Monfils or a Murray, as someone who's just going to keep going for as long as they can. And maybe, so in my mind,
from what he said, probably not.
So I think for me, this is the sign of yeah, this is the moment where I start to believe him, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. That's the men's qualifiers. So we'll see where they all end up. in a bit, but I am just going to be switching over to take a look at the women's now, because obviously there are some stories from the women's qualifying that I think that are probably worth going through as well. And it's a shame that Nerlan isn't in the chat, because I know that he likes to ask about this player a lot. Top seed Katie Voyets is through from qualifying, along the way beating friend of the show Francisca George. Looking at this section, I'm not surprised that Voyets got through into qualifying, got through qualifying and into the Wimbledon main draw. But yeah, she's made it, and I'm hoping that Nerlan is very happy.
Yeah, I think Volinets is just super solid, right? And just maybe she could have a problem running into like some very explosive player somewhere, but as you said, she didn't really. I saw a lot of reaction on Portuguese Twitter when she drew Francisca Jorge, and I was like, wait, Volinets is beatable, right? Just because, you know, she doesn't have like that top heavy game. But yeah, in the end, of course, Francisca was the only player to take a set, definitely because of that talking tennis influence. And in the end, it's Katie Volinets just dominating the rest of the section.
It does have to be said that up until maybe Wimbledon qualifying, our friends of the show that we made at Billie Jean King Cup did make some waves. But we'll come back to some of those in a minute, because I think a lot of them were in qualifying. Next qualifier, I'm hoping I get this name right, because I haven't tried to pronounce it before, but Bai Zhishuan through, beat veteran Serena Diaz in that part of qualifying. Sadly, friend of the show, Sasha Vickery, was beaten by Diaz in the second round. But Bai is a player who, again, has been kind of featuring a little bit more often in WTA Tour main draws, and then you're sort of seeing a little bit more on the Chinese players. So, again, not a surprise for me that she's come through this section and will be featuring in the Wimbledon main draw.
Yeah, kind of the bigger story here, I guess, was the runner-up. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen Zarina Diaz, and she actually won two rounds, right? But yeah, in the end, it seems like it was a pretty easy match for the player. I'm not going to pronounce because my Chinese is not great. And this is one area of the world where I won't be correcting you with your pronunciation. Don't worry about it.
Ironically, Chinese is the one I'm more confident with.
I mean, in the chat, it's probably going to be tough. But yeah, also to Ashley's question about Murray, his status remains uncertain. He's basically trying to race with time because he wants to retire, like literally because of that. He wants to play Wimbledon and the Olympics and retire. And if he doesn't play Wimbledon, then, you know, there are some questions in regards to what he'll do. But yeah, he's in a race with time to see if he makes it.
Yeah, essentially, he's probably going to decide, if depending on what day he's drawn, like whether he's playing or not. Maybe the night before. The organizer probably saying, "Can you please tell us if we're putting you on centre court or not?" Third qualifier. Now, Renata Zarazua is a player who has had a little bit of hype in some of the earlier part of the season, especially in sort of the high altitude courts. Maybe a late Mexico's kind of main hope at the minute, but didn't make it. Lost in 3 sets to McCartney Kessler, who makes it into the main draw. I don't have too much to say about this one. Any thoughts on it, Damien?
Yeah, not really either. I mean, Kessler has been doing pretty well since wrapping up college, of course, and generally Zarazua, yeah, I'm not too high on. I know, yeah, she broke the top 100, but doesn't really have any like outstanding traits about her game. So I do think that the more dangerous player pulled through today.
Yeah. For the main draw, yeah, I'd agree with that, because this section was quite open, I think, to be honest.
There are a few dangerous players like Ferro, Sekmitieva, Marino. Yeah, this definitely
Marino was the one I had my eye on.
Yeah, if I was doing the picks for the women's, I probably would have picked Marino.
Yeah, I think given her grass court results up to this point, I would agree with you with that. So yeah. Okay, next section. Now, this section obviously had a headline name, Amanda Anisimova, former Wimbledon quarterfinalist, I I think, fourth round of qualifiers, pretty sure quarterfinals. And has a storied CV, is a player who's playing sporadically but shown good prospect, sort of good form occasionally, like still got this explosive game. I had her coming through this section, but at the end, Eva Lees had something else to say about it. And Lees is a player who I think I've watched her very early on her development when she was still fairly incomplete, but she's starting to build something around the game, and that was enough to take down Anisimova in the end.
Yeah, this was definitely like an Anisimova section, right? You mentioned a few times that I called some sections a player dash section, and this was definitely an Anisimova one. But yeah, in the end, she loses in free. Kind of wild to see her in these qualifying draw, but yeah, I mean, we just want her on the tour more frequently, right? And it's a bit of a start, but yeah, it's just a more much sharp player getting through in the end, I guess.
Yeah, I would say so. So yeah, Lees in the main draw. Let's see how she progresses. We are kind of rattling through. Here we go. This is the one for the Brits. Sonay Kartal has made it into the main draw at Wimbledon, adding another British name in. She was probably the only British female player to win a match today, out of all the women in action across Eastbourne and Wimbledon qualifying. We'll get to that later. Beating the other Andreeva, Erica, in the end. Again, this section, there were some dangerous names in here. Kartal obviously beating another friend of the show, Susan Layman's. But yeah, Kartal probably a little bit forgotten about in terms of a Brit, but she'll be very happy to progress into the main draw and kind of be the headline name from today.
Yeah, I remember tweeting about her a lot like 2 years ago when she was putting in these crazy ITF stats, yeah, just winning them left and right. But after that, she kind of hit a wall. There was also some injuries, I think. Great that she made it here. Susan Layman's, I was waiting for you to mention that. She's a friend of the show as well. But it's a great win for her, especially I think the final round as well. Andreeva 6-3, 6-1. Of course, Erika not quite Mirra levels, but still just losing 4 games. I guess it's going to be the same question again, right? Whether if Sonay gets to that top 200-ish level, whether she's going to hit a wall again or not. I don't know yet, but the main draw might actually tell us quite a lot about that. If she gets someone who like doesn't have much grass prep and stuff, yeah, she could win a match or two.
Yeah, I guess I remember her getting selected a lot for GB's Billie Jean King Cup because of those ITF results a couple of years back. And then she's kind of dropped off the radar a bit, hence why she got a wild card into qualifying and not the main draw. So yeah, we'll have to see. I think, I agree. If she's against someone with not a lot of grass court experience or confidence, with a British crowd against them, that's going to be an uphill struggle. So yeah, right draw. We'll see what happens for Kartal. Next one, Olivia Gadecki making it through, taking down some tough names. Timofeeva, Harmony Tan, and Elsa Jacquemot, who is obviously someone who's touted amongst sort of French fans as being a next sort of prospect. But Gadecki probably showing a little bit more experience to come through this section.
Yeah, the Harmony Tan win is nice. Of course, everyone remembers Harmony's match against Serena, but like, yeah, it's a great style for grass, that sort of slice and dice game. So I think that's, you have to produce like a certain level of, let's say, smart tennis to beat Tan. And yeah, in the end, also Jacquemot. Gadecki, of course, we've seen a few times in Australia, but I think at Wimbledon, this is going to be her first appearance.
Yeah, probably will. So, and obviously, having a game that used a lot of slice, like her compatriot Barty, maybe not quite as efficiently deployed, is still going to work pretty well on grass. So maybe not a surprise that she's made it through this into the main draw at Wimbledon, and the Australians will have someone else to cheer on other than Tomjanovic and Saville. Next section, another Australian who didn't make it, Rodionova did not make it, losing to Paredes Diaz, who then lost to Ansa Tadoni, who came through, beat Birol, and then beat Paredes Diaz today. I'm going to be honest, I actually don't know too much about Tadoni's game, so I can't comment too much on how much of a surprise or not that this is. Unfortunately, I think I will freely admit that there are limits to how many tennis players I can follow.
Yeah, she recently won a 125 in Bari, I think, but that was still on clay. Of course, like a main tour chance to watch her was in Cluj in January. Yeah, personally, I don't know her game too well either. Anka, I think it would be her name, was like C with Kirstea and Kopil and stuff. But I've been hearing a lot of great stuff about her actually from like people who watch more of the WTA lower circuits than I do. So excited to catch her in the main draw, and they're really like saying she has potential to not break the top 100 soon. Obviously she does, given she's 19 and very close to it, but that she could actually like produce some big stuff in the sport. I will have to watch her more, because I think the only time I did was maybe that Cluj match in January, and she didn't do that well there. But clearly making good progress, given that she won that 125k like a month ago, less than a month ago.
Yeah. Okay. So certainly clay seems to me maybe her preferred surface, not massive surprise, but yeah, I think Romanian tennis fans will be hopeful for her progress. Okay, next section. This unsurprisingly ended up coming down between Olga Danilovic and Dalma Galfi. And Danilovic, obviously recently with some big wins against Daniel Collins, that French Open second week run, where she beat Vekic as well. Maybe was the obvious favourite to come through this section, but in the end, maybe didn't quite step up against Dalma Galfi in the end, who manages to qualify for, managed to make her presence known in the Grand Slam main draw.
Yeah, I appreciate the tidbits from Kirill here, by the way, in the chat, who probably, it seems like he's watched a lot more women's qualifying today than I did, for sure. As after the men's, I was just like, I was out after that 3.5, let's say, hour window when everything was happening at the same time. I was out of brain power. But yeah, Danilovic Galfi, I think this is a section where the seeds were extremely strong. I don't think Olga is that good on grass, probably, compared to other courts, really, but always a player with a high ceiling. So it's a great win for Galfi. Probably the most talented Hungarian that we have from that bunch on the tour. And certainly would be nice if she can produce some sort of a bigger breakthrough. Of course, previously she was already in the top 100. And I think she also made a run at Wimbledon last year, didn't she? So
yeah, and Jean is also
time
reminding us that she made the semis at, I'm pretty sure she made the semis at Den Bosch.
Oh, yeah, you're right. And I think at Wimbledon, she must have lost to Alexandrova, right, last year. But I don't remember who she beat along the way. But she definitely went to like third round, or, well, must have been third round, because Alexandrova lost in the fourth to Sabalenka.
So there you go. So no surprise that Galfi's made it through. Really strong, looking really strong grass. And Danilovic is more of a grinder in terms of her game. So that's why we suited to clay. So Galfi making it after that Den Bosch run, probably not a massive surprise, but there were other people who got some decent grass results who did fall in this draw. So she's avoided that banana skin. All right. So next up, Ukrainian player Yulia Starobtseva making it through, beating Madison Inglis. This was a tough section. We had Anna Bondar, Natalia Stefanovic, Sarah Belek. But in the end, it's Starobtseva who makes it through. A player that I've definitely heard rumblings about from some quarters, or at least has drawn a little bit of attention. Maybe not lots, but I think I'm seeing this name and I'm going, yeah, I've seen her name about. I'm not surprised she's in a Grand Slam main draw.
Yeah, I think after college she had a crazy ITF win streak as well, somewhat like Kartal, and then she also kind of stagnated, but at least it was around the 150 level. So yeah, it's good for her to make it through. The section in general, I mean, it's not that huge. It's not that amazing. I think that the sort of the lineup that she beat, but the fact that she did it all like without dropping games, that's kind of a different story, right? So let's
Yes.
see. There was a friend of mine like a year ago who was really telling me about Starodubtseva and like kind of just making me excited about her. Then I watched her and I was like, yeah, really? But who knows? Maybe it's just kind of a step. She's got into that 150 level. She didn't instantly progress further, but maybe there's still hope.
Maybe this we'll have to check and see how she's playing now.
Yeah, I will have to.
Robin
I
Montgomery.
think it was the US Open maybe where I watched her last year, if memory serves right.
That would make sense, I think.
I think she maybe qualified there, or made it to the third round, or maybe it was her debut at a Grand Slam. Anyway, never mind. Yeah, it was her debut. It was her debut at a Grand Slam. I'm just checking that now, but she's already made it in Australia and the French this year. Okay, so it's actually her third in a row. That's very impressive. Maybe she's going for the Elias Immer.
We'll have to see if she knows her tennis. All right. Montgomery is the qualifier from this section. I'm not surprised. She was looking. She's got a couple of main draw wins on grass already. Even if she was in a section with some recognizable names, I think that she was my favorite to come through the section, and she's starting to build some momentum and a bit of a reputation. Montgomery obviously has played a couple of top level players and managed to frustrate them for a bit, even if ultimately she didn't have the game to beat them. She's in a good position at sort of this young point in her career, and now she's got through qualifying to make Wimbledon.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a more exciting prospect to me than some of the previous players we talked about. And yeah, that second round against Rakimova. I mean, how often do you get this on the WTA tour? First of all, just 3 tie breaks. I think that's super rare. If I remember correctly, that happened last year at Wimbledon. It was Alexandrova Brengel, and that was like the first in the Open era or something like that. But also the fact that they didn't even break each other for 36 games. That
is pretty rare.
Unheard of in the women's game, like literally unheard of. And well, that was kind of the story of this section for me.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a very, very tense match to play in, let alone watch. Probably more tense to play in, I would say. If you're
I mean, as a watcher, I've definitely had my issues with matches like this. Just kind of every breakpoint feels precious, but if there's no breakpoints whatsoever, then what are you doing? Like a couple of years ago, there was this one against I think it was Karlovic Fratangelo on green clay, and I enjoyed that. But recently, I think last year it was Tirante against someone else on altitude clay, and that was just a joke. Oh, against Durasovic, I think, and that was just a joke. I was turning into the sets at 5-all because there was no point tuning into them earlier.
This is of course the former Ivo Karlovic fan speaking here.
Yeah, so that's why maybe it was more exciting to me, when he played Fratangelo. And even though they had 36 straight holds, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, so Montgomery clutches her way through into the main draw, and hopefully she has a easier draw than she's had in some of these other big events recently, where we've kind of come across her. More Hungarian success, Pana Udvardy, player I'm familiar with, obviously has kind of fairly regular on sort of the 250s on the WTA tour for a couple of years. So to me, not a massive surprise that she made it through, especially given who she was with in this section. Pigossi, yes, top seed, but more of a clay court player. And so, yeah, to me, Udvardy making it through fairly comfortably is not a surprise.
Yeah, honestly, like I feel like this is the first time I've seen her name this week. I wasn't even aware that she qualified, and that's not a dig. Like, it's just because of how routine it was, and there was never really any story in this section, it seems, which is what you want out of a Grand Slam qualifying draw, right? I mean, you just want to make it and lose as little energy as possible.
She's probably had the most efficient run out of anyone we've talked about so far, right?
I think Starodubtseva was similar, right?
So she dropped. Let's go back up to
It
start
was
with
a similar amount of games.
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, similar. Yeah. Maybe dropped slightly fewer games, but yeah, all about the same. Not going to try and work it out right now.
Yeah, I think Udvardi dropped a bit more, 16 to 13, I think. Yeah, but anyway, similar campaigns.
This is the section I think has drawn a lot of attention this week. For multiple, there were multiple players here that were keeping an eye on. You had Martin Siver, who has some history of doing well on grass in previous years. You had Linda Fruhvirtova, sort of broke through winning a WTA title really young, but has been falling down the rankings. You had Alicia Parks, who had been struggling up until recently on a losing streak, but now she's on a winning streak. And Hannah Klugman, a new young talent, maybe not new if you're British. She's been talked about for the last year or two as an exciting prospect by those in the know. Obviously exciting whenever Fruhvirtova, which I believe you covered on the channel for us yesterday, Damien. But I did think Alicia Parks with her serve on grass was going to be a tall order, and that's how it proved today.
Yeah, as you said, lots of good stories here, especially Klugman and Parks, the 15-year-old who, of course, debuted at Wimbledon last year as well, but everyone was excited to see how she'll do. Yeah, if you're like on tennis Twitter or just in general in the tennis community, you probably heard her name at some point, especially when she was winning lots of events in like at like 13, 14 already. And yeah, I see it, it's tough in the women's game. I think I touched on it on the stream against Fruhvirtova. And actually Linda is a very good example, right, of just being so good at an early age, but then just kind of doing nothing with the ball in general on the court and not really having the talent to push through to the very top, which maybe her sister is also going to experience. Although I think she is a little better adjusted to the main tour than Linda is. But Klugman doesn't really seem to have those issues. So I actually kind of like her chances to just keep on moving. The power that she showed on her forehand this week, the serving even, 4-15 was really something that I wasn't expecting, even after watching her match against Marchenko in the first round, when she was kind of playing more of an Mira Andreeva-ish play style, if you may. And Alicia Parks, it's what a crazy year, right? She was 3-16 before Gaiba. She saves the match point in the qualifying for that WTA 125. She wins it, and now she also qualifies in this form. Last time she was this much on fire, she claimed back-to-back 1-5 titles indoors. She was like everyone's dark horse for the 2023 season. We all know how it ended. We all know how her career has progressed since. But yeah, I think this is literally the best she's played since that late 2022 run of Ostrava, Angers, and Andorra, I think. So
and obviously she got that indoor title in Lyon, I think.
Lyon, over Garcia, but that event is gone. And even when she was playing indoors at the beginning of the season in Linz, she was losing. And of course, it's tricky for her now because on the WTA Tour, you only have 2 indoor events, I think. Yeah. So it's a bit of a nightmare for her, but grass, at least in theory, should work. But until Gaiba, it also wasn't. So finally, she's here, and she is going to be a threat. I mean, whoever she plays, they're not going to want to see her in the draw.
I was going to say the exact same point. I think if she's serving well, she's going to be a nightmare first round draw for pretty much anyone, unless they are a top class returner.
And maybe even then. Yeah. It's just a matchup where you kind of have to stand there and see what she's going to do. And no one likes that. I mean, no one likes to be that reactive. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of what she did to Fernandez in Australia. I think that was this year.
Yeah, but unfortunately, she won 2 games against Leylah. That before Gaiba, she had 3 wins this year, and 2 of them were actually there at the Australian Open. One of them was at the French. So she's kind of been, at the French in the qualifying, but still, she's kind of been peaking for the slams and that 125. But yeah, obviously she's got a great record against like top 20 players and stuff. So yeah, she really would be kind of like one of the best matches of round 1 if she draws one.
A name I think we'll be looking out for tomorrow. 4 more qualifiers and then we're done. Friend of the show, Zeynep Somnes. I saw some chat about her earlier in the live chat with Kirit and Matthew. Somnes was, she got a win in Berlin. She got to the last 16, qualified there, got through Montgomery easily, set down against Herzog, who is a tough player on her day, and was up against Sneager and looking set to qualify for Wimbledon, only for things to go horribly wrong. And unfortunately, Zeynep Somnes not able to capitalize, which is a shame, because I thought that she was looking good going into qualifying. Admittedly, Sneager on grass occasionally gets a couple of good wins. So it was going to be a little bit tough. She got a win in Nottingham against Kostrick, who admittedly is not in great form right now. But you also had Celine Neef, who came on the scene at Beijing Cup. Tama Hrunchkova, Teichmann. Like, this was a tough section. But at the end of the day, it was Sneager who ended up being that little bit better in a tight match today.
Yeah, a couple of nice wins for Zeynep for sure. I don't think she has like the most natural grass game, but she does move well. She does, make a lot of balls as well. In the end, she loses to Sneager. I did not really follow that much of that encounter, so I'm not sure if she was like up in the second or third sets as well. I have no clue.
Yeah, though I heard. I think from the chat, I think Somnes was up in the second set.
Okay.
Kirit can confirm, I think, because I think he was watching. Oh, there we go. Matthew saying also similar thing happened in the second set. So I think.
And yes, Nuran, we talked about Radu Albot's match today.
We did. I think you got there first.
He was asking about something else, but
I know.
I'm doing that joke second time this week.
I think he might have actually meant Radu Albot this time. Who knows? Zeynep Somnes, so sadly out. Darius Sneager, in not a surprise. I do remember watching her beat Halep at the US Open. I think that's her claim to fame a couple of years back. Somnes was 4-1 up in the third.
Brutal. Commiserations to Zeynep. Commiserations to Mert. Zeynep is a friend of the show. Mert is a friend of Twitter, I guess. But it's a shame.
Yeah, it's a shame. I think she could have been quite an exciting prospect at Wimbledon. But Sneaker is also pretty interesting as well. If anything, for her interesting service motion. So service motion. I swear she had an interesting technique. I'm sure it was with the serve. I was like, okay, interesting. We can make that work. Right. 14th qualifier. Lulu Sun from New Zealand. Through beating Alexandra Ayala from the Philippines. A name who has been thrown around a bit, but maybe when things get she gets a chance to impress, maybe doesn't quite step up. But Lulu Sun is a name that I've been seeing climbing the rankings recently, and I'm interested to see what she does with this main draw opportunity.
Yeah, New Zealand seems to suit her, as of course it's just since April that she's been representing it. But yeah, she manages to make it. The win over Gabriela Knudsen. I really have no clue how to pronounce it. Of course, she's Czech, so I guess we could even pronounce the K, but I don't know. But yeah, Ala Zidansek actually caught a bit of that in the second round. That was crazy if Ala managed to make it, because that second set had her saving many match points. Of course, Ala was a huge prospect coming from the Philippines and stuff, and just kind of having a lot of marketability at an early age, right? The IMG contracts, but to me, she kind of just still has that underpowered junior game, and she has stagnated as well. I don't know if either of these players will be super dangerous in the main draw, but we'll see.
Well, Lulu Sun's made it. I mean, it's a dance check. I mean, look at this. She was the biggest name in that section, as you said, like narrowly losing in the end. Well,
maybe,
narrowly.
Not really a grass quarter, but yeah, I
No,
guess she still has
not.
firepower, even if it's like a very extreme grip on the forehand and more clayish in that sense.
Yeah, and that was my point. It was going to be like, Zidansek was the name that, like, maybe Zidansek, Ayala, Sun were probably the names from this section, but like Zidansek to me is like more of a clay quarter. I was not super convinced that she was going to make it through necessarily. It just seems to me like, Zidansek obviously French Open semi-finalist, but that might end up being her main claim to fame. Right. Next one. 2 more to go. Elena Gabriela Rus. Not a surprise here, I don't think. She's obviously coming back from injury, but she's made it through Wimbledon qualifying, through some names that I sort of, again, recognizable on the tour. But to me, I think Rusa, not a surprise to make it through this section at all.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of always coming back from injury. I'm not even sure she's coming back from injury at the moment right now. But like, yeah, she's been injured all the time the last few years. I think it was actually Wimbledon when she had like her big breakthrough. Well, she didn't win a match against Radwanska in 2018, but that was like such a stunning performance. And if you told me back then that 6 years later she still wouldn't have a single major win at Wimbledon, I would definitely be very surprised. And who knows, maybe she can actually just manage to take that away and win a round now, hopefully. And yeah, seems like she just dominated this draw, which kind of after Sasnovich got out, I guess, she pretty much kind of had to, or like, was expected to.
Yeah, I'd say so. Like Sasnovich was the other name in there. Sasnovich is quite streaky one way or another.
Horrible year, but obviously a quality player as well.
Yeah, when she switches it on, yeah. Last qualifier and another British heartbreaker is Armani Banks. Again, I unfortunately falls short to Canadian Marina Stakusic, who makes it through into the Wimbledon main draw. Thoughts on that one, Damien?
Jane, Betsy Pericard and Van Asch are both in the lucky loser draw. We don't know how it went, but it was them and 2 other players, Galan and Duckworth. And basically, they are still waiting for any withdrawals because there's currently none. Stakusic, of course, Davis, Billie Jean King Cup hero. I think I saw some of that match against Paquet where she was she was so close to being out in the second set. She survives that and, well, dominates her other 2 opponents. But yeah, I mean, ever since Billie Jean King Cup, obviously she's kind of a name that a lot of people are looking at. And I think this is going to be her first slam because I think she almost made it at Wimbledon. But in fact, that almost made it is almost is the key word there. It was actually our friend Starop Dubtseva who beat her there. So
there you go. Well, let's see what Stakusic can do. Obviously, Billie Jean King Cup hero for Canada can make it through. Sean, I'm just going to answer your question. Mukova withdrew before her match with a wrist problem. I'm guessing that it's still not fully there yet, but I won't necessarily be panicking about her playing Wimbledon necessarily.
I hope it's just like preventive and she's gonna play Wimbledon, but we just don't know. But hopefully, she just didn't want to run out of everything before Wimbledon.
Before we wrap up, I wanted to get your thoughts on this as someone who obviously does keep an eye on qualifying. My question is like, if you're a qualifiers, how much of an advantage would you say coming through qualifying is, or disadvantage coming through qualifying is, if they're playing someone else in round 1 who is of a similar ranking who didn't need to come through qualifying? Maybe they didn't play the previous few weeks, or they didn't win many matches, or at least someone who maybe isn't like a top 50 player. How
I think it's very rarely a disadvantage. I would say it's very rarely a disadvantage. You can, of course, like run out of everything, just run out of steam during the qualifying, sure. But it's 3 matches, and it all slams but Roland Garros now, I guess, because US Open used to end on Friday for every qualifier, whereas now it's going to also end on Thursday. At the French, they split the last round into 2 days, but basically you're done with it on Thursday or Friday, which gives you like 3 matches. And I think by the first round for the slam, 95% of the time, you're going to be okay. However, at Wimbledon, there is also that consideration that John is talking about. And why don't they play qualifiers at Wimbledon? Because they don't want the grass to be ruined. I mean, that's why, Middle Sunday was a thing for many years. They just don't feel like the grass can take 1 more week of play before the actual event. And yeah, they are playing qualifying at a different venue, which kind of can be compared to what some other players will do in Mallorca or in Eastbourne. So basically, you get 3 matches. Some players will get the same. Let's say 8 players will get the same at the other ATP events. So, it's possible to get that sort of workload as well and at another venue. Here, it's not even the same courts. So I think at Wimbledon, it's not that much of an advantage. But I would still argue that at the other slams or at Wimbledon, it's just very rarely a disadvantage unless you really like go all out and you basically injure yourself or whatever. I just don't feel like it happens a lot. I feel like 95% of the time still you get something out of it rather than actually ruin your chances for the main draw. Of course, you still need to make it through that actual qualifying, which is very tough, and still everyone prefers to be in the main draw. Let's be honest.
Yes, because you're guaranteed to be there, right? You know you're going to get those points.
Guaranteed the money, the points, even 10 points for being in a slam round 1. Like that's kind of insane that we have something like this. It's I really don't understand it, but it's 10 points. It's 40 if you make all 4 slams. Like it actually matters. Why did Muchova pull out the wrists? So the thing that she had surgery on.
Yeah, it's probably. I think it's precautionary. To be honest.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I agree with you. I generally, when I'm doing bracket picks, if it's a qualifier against someone bottom end of the top 100 who didn't come through qualies, I will back the qualifier because they've got the momentum at most slams anyway. I agree with you about Wimbledon. It's less of an advantage, although I will say that obviously being across the road at Wimbledon and not having to worry about traveling and getting across, if you've gone deep at another tournament like Mallorca or even Eastbourne, it's going to
If you've
help.
gone very deep, yeah, but like for most players in Mallorca, it's okay, right? Because they still get a few days.
Yeah, I mean, Eubanks is the only person who's made a Mallorca warm-up work so far. That's the other thing I've said is obviously how different grass is done. But yeah, that's. But yeah, I would agree with you. Normally, I would back a qualifier. Normally, I think the momentum is pretty critical, especially in those early rounds. We've managed to talk, and for a lot of this, those of you might be paying attention to Mallorca, we're into a very tight end of match between Shelton and Judd, which is becoming very interesting. We're either getting Judd breaking and stealing the deciding set, or we're going to a deciding tiebreak.
It's good we didn't have that idea to keep going. Let's say to wait until Sheldon Judd finishes, because otherwise we would basically be still not starting the show. But yeah,
and you've got other commitments, right, Damien? You've got to
some, I guess.
Some. None more important than talking tennis.
Actually, they pay me for some of these other commitments.
Damien, do you have an issue with Paul Jubb?
No, I don't have an issue with Paul Jubb. I mean, I was just kind of saying, let's not hype him too much. Like that's probably where John is coming from.
Oh,
and yes, Matthew, we are both doing the draw tomorrow. So 11 a.m. I think it is my time, 10 a.m. local time for the Brits. It's going to be the Wimbledon draw with me and Nick. So yes, of course, you are all invited.
We will be watching the draw with eagle eyes, and you will get our live reactions to it all happening. So that's going to be super exciting. I'm looking forward to digging into that with you. Looks like we are heading towards a tie-break in Mallorca. So I think that's going to be something that we can all enjoy in a bit. But I just wanted to say hopefully you're not going to be sick of me by the time that we do our draw show, Damien. But I've had fun.
No, definitely not. Hopefully the viewers will not get sick of us, but I don't think we will.
If the viewers were sick of us, this is the wrong channel to be on, given how often we're on it.
That's very true. Yeah.
Well, I hope you do join us tomorrow for that live draw. I believe it's going to be something like 5 a.m. EST, but I'm sure it'll be worth waking up for. There is it 40:30. Good grief! My stream is so far behind real life. I'm living in the past, clearly. It does help that our producer is in Mallorca. But yeah, we're going to be watching that. Hope everyone. Come and join us in watching that. Thank you, Damien, for taking us through expertly as always the qualifiers today, and
especially on the women's. Yeah.
We probably wasn't.
We managed somehow.
We got through, but there was some stories on the women's that were worth talking about with them.
Absolutely, yeah. I just wish I was more competent. I wish I had more time in a day. Oh yeah, let's say that.
So do I. I've just realised it was half the reason I struggle with certain players is because I cannot actually physically watch all the tennis required to do that. It's just not possible. I barely have time for the main tour, but. I do have time tomorrow, and I'm going to be using it to break down the main draw as it happens with you, Damien. And I hope everyone else is going to enjoy watching that with us. So tune back in tomorrow, where we will continue to keep talking tennis.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.